to the second episode of the A&J Soccer Show. My name is Andrew Pipers, and I'm here with my friend Jalen Thompson, and we have a great show for you guys today. Going to get into some Champions League recap from last week, also some Premier League recap from this weekend. Going to go ahead and preview the Carabao Cup as well, and finish off with our continued discussion of U.S. soccer. So we'll get right into it. Man City won 2-1 against Napoli this past weekend.
Yup.
And that was big. At City, at the Etihad, big win over a strong European side. Did you see anything that you particularly liked in it?
I mean, just the continued form of Jesus and Sterling. I mean, those guys are like linking up very, very well together. 2 goals in the first 15 minutes of the game, and what else can you ask for? De Bruyne heavily involved in the second one as well. So, I mean, the boys just look like they just keep on rolling.
Yeah, I agree totally. It was a really strong first 30 minutes or so. We looked like we could run away with it another 5 or 6 nil game. But I was very happy with the performance, and defensively when we needed to stand up, some of our guys did so. Ederson had a great penalty save in the first half, let one in the second half, but I mean the first save was huge, and John Stones had an absolutely heroic goal line clearance. That was absurd.
Yeah, definitely put the ball on the line. The first PK was a bit interesting on the call. I don't know if I would necessarily have called it a PK. Walker did kind of have his hands around him when he jumped in the air, but it kind of seemed both ways between the attacker and Walker. So not too sure about the first one, but definitely the second one. I think Fernandinho caught the guy pretty well. So, I mean, I don't blame the ref for giving the second penalty, but I think it was huge that Ederson was able to get that first penalty save, and unlucky on the second one. But I mean, the boys got the 3 points. We're top of the Champions League group, so I mean that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and I think just against a strong Napoli side who hadn't lost a game in Serie A up until then, and they've got the trio of Insigne, Callahan, and Mertens. They're so fast and so good, and our defense really held up well against them. We were just looking at a clip of that Kevin De Bruyne left-footed curler that thumped off the crossbar. That's something I can't even do in FIFA. So if somebody's doing that in real life, I don't know. Like the technical side of that as a player, like that's got to be absurd.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's like every game the guy just amazes you of like how he can put his stamp on the game. It's just like he's either involved in assists, he's involved in the build-up play. I mean, it's like you can't really get around City scoring a goal without De Bruyne touching the ball. So it's just like, if he continues playing like this all season, we're going to have a very, very good season.
I mean, what a pickup from Wolfsburg. I think we got him 3 seasons ago, and he's just progressed as a player so much. We're probably going to talk about him every weekend if he keeps
honestly
keeps up this form. It's unbelievable, but definitely a good time to be a City fan, especially in Europe. We'll get into the Premier League weekend a little bit more later, but also, another big one for the Premier League in Europe is Tottenham Hotspur going to the Bernabeu and getting a point, that was a big statement. Everybody thought Madrid was going to roll over them.
Yeah, and see, that makes it very interesting for me, particularly as a City fan, just because, I mean, you look at City as a contender for winning the Champions League this year, and you look at who's in their way. You look at the PSGs, the Barças, the Real Madrids, and I think Real Madrid's honestly the scariest out of all of them, just because they've won 2 in a row. So when you see a team like Tottenham, who are a good Premier League side, but they are, and I think I don't even know if they're in the top 3 right now, just because Chelsea and Man U are up there. But so they're not the strongest of the bunch, and they're able to get a good result against Madrid. I think that's very good sign for the City fans of the world.
Yeah, I agree with that, and also just fans of the English game as a whole. There's so many times in Europe English teams just go there and get destroyed by mid or lower upper echelon teams in other leagues. So like Sevilla would wipe out Man City, for example, or that's just an example. But so many times that happened, and it looks like finally the Premier League teams are really starting to flex their muscles a little bit and kind of return to the top of European football.
Yeah,
maybe not the top, but they're getting back.
Yeah, holding their own. Yeah. I definitely think Lloris had a big part in the win. I don't know if necessarily Tottenham dominated or if it was dominant on Real Madrid's side, because I wasn't really able to catch much of the game. But I know Tottenham's goal was an own goal from Varane. Decent bit of build up, and when they whipped the cross in, it just came off Varane. Pretty unlucky. And then on the other side, I think the Tottenham conceded a PK, and Ronaldo stepped up. Obviously buried it,
Yeah.
but Lloris made some pretty key saves to keep the draw, and also Harry Kane had a pretty easy one-on-one that he wasn't able to convert. So I think it looked like the game could have gone either way, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Harry Kane has. We were talking last weekend about Madrid maybe putting in a massive bid for him this summer, and I could see it happening. I mean, another report I read is that if they couldn't get Kane, they would try to go after the young Manchester United forward Marcus Rashford if they couldn't get
Wow.
Harry Kane. So, lots of water stirring in the transfer market, even though it seems like it just ended like yesterday.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, constantly thinking about how to get better. Yeah, we'll get a little bit more into Harry Kane when we talk about his weekend this weekend.
Yeah, he had a great one. But going back to Lloris, I mean,
Mhm.
you look at, he's a French goalkeeper, obviously, and you just look at the promise they have. Gial and Giroud and all them, it's just like, wow.
It's a scary time to not be a French fan, and that's a good
Exactly.
point to bring that up. I mean, that save that Lloris made against, to your point about the French national team, they're so young and so talented. They can just outrun anybody. Mbappe. They've got an abundance of talent in that team.
Yeah, which surprised me because Atletico tied Karabakh 0-0, and you got Antoine Griezmann up top, who can get you so many goals. And, I mean, I was just surprised to see that game go goalless.
Yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, I don't even know where Karabakh is from. They're in the Champions League almost every time because they're from a country where it's, I guess, easy to get in. But if you're an Atletico Madrid fan, you're sitting third in the table. I think you're 3 points behind second place Roma, maybe
Right.
like 5 points behind Chelsea. And what you have coming up is you have a trip to Stamford Bridge and you host Roma, and then I guess Karabakh comes to you as well. But that trip to Stamford Bridge, I mean, that's not an easy trip to make.
Yeah.
And that's surprising from a team that they've been finalist in recent years. They've made it. I don't think they've won in recent years, but they've made it very far. And that's really surprising that they might get knocked out of the group stages.
Yeah, especially after how far, they made it last year. You kind of hope to have a successful campaign like that, but, it doesn't always happen every year. But speaking of Chelsea, they got a pretty convincing win this weekend in the Premier League. I think they won 4-2, and it seems like they're back to the form that they need to be.
Yeah, no, that you're right. I mean, they had that little blip against Crystal Palace last weekend, and we both were kind of saying I think that's just a little bit of a blip, and a convincing 4-2 win this weekend. Pedro had an amazing goal.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, Pedro's a great player. He had an amazing goal, and if you're a Chelsea fan, I think you can be a little bit more confident and relaxed. And last week we also talked about Arsenal and their loss to Watford, and this weekend they went to Everton and got the 3 points. Played really well. I watched a lot of that game, and Arsenal looked like the Arsenal of old. Just scoring goals from everywhere. So
I think today was Wenger's birthday as well, so I think that's a nice icing on the cake for him.
yeah, he'll be happy for sure. No, that's a good point. So yeah, I guess some other big Premier League action this past weekend. Being City fans, we got to talk about that Burnley win.
Of course.
A little disappointed it wasn't 5 or 6. Just kidding. No, I'll take a win any day of the week. But 3 goals. That last De Bruyne pass to Sané, I don't know if you caught that.
Yes.
It's another one of those just like, that's a video game. That doesn't happen in real life. And it just happened from Kevin. So it was I think that was another good win for the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Burnley's obviously not the most quality of sides, but those games are very interesting because they tend to be a side that sits back and they'll really pack it in at the beginning and make you build up and try to work it around and break them down a little bit before you can be able to score. And those are often sometimes the hardest games to play because it's not open flowing and they might be able to catch you on a counterattack and next thing you know you're down 1-0. But City was really hitting them pretty hard at first and they were able to keep their patience. And once they got that first goal, it seemed like just the other two were just right around the corner. So I was impressed at that win just because that kind of shows you what kind of team City can be. I mean, they can handle the lower table teams as well as the big names like Chelsea and Arsenal and Liverpool. So I was very happy with the performance from the boys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sean Dyche, the Burnley manager, he's a manager I've always admired. He's so passionate about what he does. When Burnley went down 2 years ago, he had the opportunity to move on to a bigger club, but he just has so much passion for that town and that football club. So Burnley, yeah, I mean, I think they're actually sitting above Liverpool right now, whose woes continue as they lost to Tottenham this weekend. I think it was 4-1. It was at I was at Wembley, so this is another game in which Harry Kane flexed his muscles, and I think Dele Alli got back on the score sheet after maybe 5 games without scoring. So it was an entertaining game, 2 pretty attacking teams, but if you're a Liverpool fan, you got to be thinking about Jurgen Klopp, and how much more time do you give him?
Yeah. And I mean, going back to Lloris again, I mean, the guy made some pretty ridiculous saves in the Liverpool game to keep Liverpool to only 1 goal. Mohamed Salah, I think, getting the sole one for Liverpool. But yeah, I mean, Tottenham with Harry Kane up top, I think he scored in 8 goals in his last 6 games. I think I heard him say. So I mean, that's pretty impressive. Another goal-scoring giant in the Premier League that will give Jesus and Aguero a run for their money.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's such a player, and it's crazy to think, the journey that he's gone on to get there. He was on loan a lot, and then he got his chance maybe 3 years ago, and he's gone on to become one of the world's best strikers, which is amazing. Especially if you're an England fan, you definitely want him on your side. And yeah, another I guess the final another big event of this weekend is the Man United finally. They've lost to Huddersfield Town, and kind of funny that an ex City boy, Aaron Moy, scored the first one to open the account against them. So that was pretty fun. But I mean, both United goals were just total flukes. The first one, Mata loses the ball in midfield. I was actually watching that with a friend of mine who's a Man United fan, and he was not happy. And then the second goal, Lindelof just kind of misses the header. But it's a pretty bad loss if you're Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps going back to. I think I saw some of his comments after the game, and he was just like, Huddersfield played like the team that I like to see. They play with heart, they play with sacrifice, and it's just our team didn't have that. So congrats to them on the win. And I just think he just really isn't seeing much out of his side right now that he wants to be seeing. And with the longer Pogba sits out, you wonder how long. This streak's going to continue of their poor performances. As a City fan, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see them continue to wallow in their sorrows. But I mean, I think eventually they're going to find a way under Mourinho to turn it around and start getting some results without Pogba.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a fluke. Hopefully from a United perspective, it's like Chelsea last week, the fluke with Crystal Palace. This is just a small fluke, but these are some of the things that make me believe that this is the beautiful game, as they say. Like small Huddersfield Town beating the mighty Manchester United. That's just there's something about that that's just exciting. After the game, the entire stadium was going crazy, and they were just so happy, and the United fans were just kind of sulking in the corner. But that was just an amazing game to watch, and props to Huddersfield. They've got a good manager in David Wagner. I think he's part American, so we'll get into the U.S. soccer situation a little bit later, but he's a good I think he's an American manager, so that's exciting to see.
Yeah, possible replacement for Bruce Arena, huh?
Yeah. But I guess if he's beating Manchester United, he might not want to go. Yeah.
But so I think you said this week, is it the League Cup coming up?
Yeah, this week we've got the League Cup coming up. It's changes sponsors almost every year, it seems like, but it's called the Carabao Cup now. Last year it was called the Capital One Cup, but to me, honestly, there's a big debate about is this cup even worth having? Is it, because a lot of the managers will complain about it and saying like we have too many games, yada yada yada. An argument is that it gives the youth players time to play, just time to get on the field and some real competitive soccer, but for me, I think the cup is just a big sponsorship promotion for another way for the league to make some money.
Yeah.
Winning the league doesn't really do much. I think there's a Europa League qualification in there, but I don't know. For me, at least, it's just kind of not worth having.
Yeah, that's something that you look at, especially because with Chelsea winning the Premier League last year, I don't think they won the Champions League. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had significantly fewer games they have to worry about. Whereas that when you have teams like City and Arsenal, focusing on multiple games and bigger competitions, it kind of spreads out your energy, spreads out your players. They're kind of thin on fitness just because they're just always playing. And when you add League Cup into that, I mean, that's just another set of games that, I mean, you are trying out youth players, but at the same time, I mean, is it one of your priorities? Do managers see it as something you can just throw away? And then, I mean, not just the League Cup, but the FA Cup, which I think is an important cup for sure, but that's another set of games you have to worry about with your players. What kind of lineup are you going to do? Younger, older, experience. So it should be interesting to see, what happens with the League Cup if they continue it, if they listen to the criticism, maybe decide to shut it down. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you'll see these teams filled with kids who make it to the final, and then when the final comes around, suddenly the managers care because they want to win a trophy, and they put their best side. So the kids who kind of get you to the final don't even get a chance to really play in the final. But there are arguments for and against it, and like you said, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I predict because of the sponsorship money, the league just won't let it go. I mean, money rules everything, it seems, and I think that's enough of an incentive for the league to keep it. But
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. It gives you a game to watch in the weekend. From a fan's point of view, I like it because it's more soccer for me to watch. But if I'm a player, if I'm a manager, and I'm worried about keeping my players' fitness up, or not keeping their fitness up, but not tiring them out,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's another chance for an injury. Every game's a chance for an injury, but yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Speaking of younger players, U.S. U17 team went up against the England U17s, and unfortunately, we're not able to come out with a win. But fair enough to the England national team. Their U17s are very talented, so I can't blame the U.S. for necessarily not coming out of that one with a victory, but to make it to, I think it was the quarterfinals. It's pretty promising for the U.S. soccer and what's to come with the younger players.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, U.S. soccer, we spent a lot of time last week talking about the disappointment of not making the World Cup, and one of the points that I raised is that a lot of people, including myself, think it's at the top with the current president, Sunil Gulati. He just doesn't really. He's been doing the same system. Paying for soccer is really expensive in America, and I think the system just needs a total revamp. And interestingly enough, the elections for the U.S. soccer presidency are February 10th in Orlando. So coming up soon, and there's some great candidates available. We can go through all of them, but my favorite is a guy named Charlie Stolitano. He organized the International Champions Cup, which is the preseason tournament in America. But I think you said you were interested in Landon Donovan for his.
I mean, yeah. U.S. legend. I mean, who else do you want in the hands of your soccer federation? But the man who's scores against Algeria to put us through further in the 2010 World Cup. But in all seriousness, I think he would have a lot of potential to take us forward as a U.S. federation and see what else he can bring to the table. But that guy Charlie, I mean, it's very interesting because the Champions Cup is I think it's very crucial for the culture of soccer in the U.S. just because you have all these big name teams coming and a lot of people attend those games and they see soccer growing, and it exposes more people to the beautiful game and just when those bigger teams like Barca, Real are playing at your home field, it kind of just gives you a taste. Even though they don't always bring their biggest stars. I think Ronaldo missed it this year, but I mean, just to see some of the guys like Marco Asensio and Kovacic in Real Madrid, they have their own lane to shine. So I think it's really beneficial for what the International Champions Cup does for the U.S.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think you have to find the right balance of playing experience, perhaps, and administration. I think Landon Donovan playing experience and just being a figure for people to get behind is, I think he's a very good option. Charlie Stolitano is very administratively good. He meets with a lot of the big names in soccer constantly. So I think with either of those candidates, you couldn't really go wrong. I just think we need to move on from Sunil Gulati. I think we've gone. Our slope has been down. Our slope has been negative, and we've just been digressing. So sorry, Sunil, but gotta move on from you. And there are a couple other smaller candidates, but I think the main two that people would look to are both Donovan and Svilitano. So
Yeah, and I think the qualifications, in order to run, I think you need to have 3 formal nominations, and I think you need to get that organized by December 12th. So I know Landon's considering running, but if he's really serious about it, he'll get those nominations in, and we'll see what we can do for the future of the U.S.
yeah, no, I mean hopefully it's a bright future. Like you bringing it back to the U17s, quarterfinals of a World Cup. That's big, and hopefully we can build on that. And hopefully with these elections, we'll bring in some success and upward movement for U.S. soccer. But anyway, yeah, as I try to do every week, I just want to ask you about Davidson Soccer. Give it a little plug. How are y'all doing? How was the past week, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so last night the boys went to St. Louis and got a big 3 points in overtime to advance us in the A10 standings. But Hugh Chatham got his first career goal for Davidson. He's a freshman, so it was good for him to get that under his belt and hopefully elevate his confidence. And this week we've got Elon coming up on Tuesday, which is a non-conference game, but a worthy opponent nonetheless. And the week after that we have our last game against LaSalle on November 1st, and that is our senior night. So hopefully we can celebrate the seniors by getting a good win and those 3 points under our belt.
Awesome, man. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck for Davidson Soccer. Always
Appreciate
fun
it.
to go out there and support you guys. But yeah, so you've been listening to the A&J Soccer Show. Thank you for your continued support. It means a lot. We put a lot into this, so we appreciate your feedback. Positive, negative, anything. We just want to make some better content for you guys, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave any comments that you guys want us to talk about next week in the comments below. See ya.
Do you slide on all your nights like this? Do you try on all your nights like this? I might put some spice.